this is ben.llywelyn. You may have heard that the Welsh language, the Celtic language of Welsh, is a difficult language, and I want to burst that bubble entirely for you and show you that that's actually quite ignorant. Welsh, coming from an English perspective, is an incredibly easy language to learn, and I'm going to give you 9 reasons why that's the case. Hey, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel. Thanks. First, Welsh is written with a Latin script, so compared to languages like Arabic or Japanese, you're not going to have to learn the basics of how it's written, apart from the fact that we have a few letters that are what you would say are 2 letters, like the double D, the double L. This is 1 letter in Welsh. But you know the constructs of the script itself. It comes from Latin, just like the script that's written in Polish, English, Spanish, Portuguese. It's really similar to you. And because of that, it's going to take a lot less time to learn because you're not catching up just on that basic step. In fact, it's even closer regarding the writing bit than a language like Polish, because in the medieval times when printing was beginning, printing in Wales was restricted by law, and they were forced to use English printing presses, which meant that they had to use an English orthograph to construct sounds in their own language, too. Going on with the language is entirely phonetic. Once you know how the alphabet is pronounced, each letter, it doesn't really change. It's not like English or French, where you get words where most of the letters are either silent or unusually pronounced. Welsh is highly regular. It's consistent. You don't have to relearn and relearn how things are pronounced. Once you know, and that's out of the way, and you can focus on speaking the language and building vocabulary. So for that, it's much easier than English. It's phonetic, written like it sounds. 3. There are no grammatical cases. What do I mean by this? Well, first look at this map here. Across Western Europe, French, Spanish, English, Dutch, Italian, these languages do not have cases. Welsh is just like that, part of those cool Atlantic fringe. Except for Irish, they have cases, but that's another story. So let me show you what that is. In a language that I'm sort of familiar with, Romanian, things change. Romanian has 5 cases, but they can be clumped together into 3 groups. Have a look at this here. The nominative and accusative case are identical in nouns in Romanian. Then you have the dative and genitive, which are quite similar in a way. I'm not going to go into that in this video. And you have the vocative case in Romanian when you're calling someone. Some languages like Hungarian or Finnish have a lot more cases. I mean, we're talking like 10, 15 cases in some languages. But Welsh has 0. So you don't really even need to think about it or know much about what it means. So we're going to move on. It means that the language is easier to learn. 4. The resources in Welsh are almost entirely for English speakers already, with the exception of a bit of Spanish and a bit of French. But some languages that you're trying to learn, for instance Lithuanian, there's not going to be that many resources in English because the people that are trying to learn it are, for instance, Polish or Russian. So why would they use that time to construct resources in English for you? But in the case of Welsh, the people that they're trying to get to learn the language are English speakers, mostly. So the extent of books, courses, general resources that you have are in English for you already. You don't need to find a gateway language, like for instance if you're learning Catalan or Basque, it really helps that if you know French or Spanish as the gateway into that language. But for Welsh, the gateway into Welsh is English. And if you're watching this video and you know English already, then you've got a heads up into Welsh. It makes it a lot more easier for you to not have to go through another language to learn the language. 5. Verbs in Welsh are highly consistent. It means that they don't change much from the general conjugation or how they connect onto them. There are 4 main ones in Welsh that if you learn how these are irregular, then you can speak Welsh and learn it a lot faster. So, mynd, to go, gwneud, to do, cael, to have, bod, to be. Once you know those 4 and how they change, you are really far into learning Welsh already. And a lot of languages are not going to have just 4 simple verbs, which a lot of things attach onto to build constructs. So because Welsh is so consistent, apart from those 4 which have their own, it's easy to learn. 6. English has had prolonged contact with Welsh, and vice versa. And so a lot of words in Welsh come from English. Now, there's a historical reason why there's not so many Welsh words in English, because of, well, historical hatred of the Welsh as the English language was forming. But that's another story. From the Welsh perspective, they've taken in a lot of English loanwords. In some cases, it's prestige, a lot of scientific words, a lot of words to do with ordinary things. Just look at these words here. Car, kappa, flat, coupon, pink. But you get also a lot of words that are coming from French, which are going to be very familiar to English speakers. So like, cafil is the word for horse, and if you know much French at all, cheval is the word for horse in French. Rosin, a rose. So a lot of words that have gone into English from French went into Welsh at a different period in its history, and they're slightly different from English because of that in how they're pronounced or shaped. But they're still very similar to you because French is so close to English in so many cases. Welsh, its grammar is much closer. Welsh with French and Spanish are very close in things like how you construct relative clauses, which means the boy who sang, the girl who was eating. And the way this is formed in Latin-based languages and Celtic languages is really similar. 7. Shared context. Part of learning a language is learning the cultural context which words and phrases fit into. So much of Welsh over the centuries has been influenced by English just because of sheer proximity. You have loads of English idioms or turns of phrase which have been absorbed into Welsh. Like the counting system, it used to be based more on 20s like the French system, but it's more based on 10s now, like the English system. And a lot of these ways of doing things are going to come across to you as very familiar, and it makes the language easier. It facilitates learning from your end if you're coming from English. But it also gives references into historical context. So we don't have to explain to you what King Arthur is. We don't have to explain to you what England is, the biggest bordering country along the Welsh border. Well, the only one, frankly. And we don't have to explain to you the United Kingdom in which the Welsh country is, or the historical context of the British Empire which fits into the Welsh history. You already know that if you're coming from English. So it's not like going into Mongolian or, I don't know, Persian, where the historical context is something like you have to learn from the very beginning. You already know a lot of it. A lot of the founding fathers of the American Constitution spoke Welsh. So a lot of these ideas that are in the Welsh culture are already there in the English-speaking culture. That makes it really easy. 8. Modern tech. Because Wales is along the edges or the periphery of the Anglo-speaking culture, it's been able to keep up with modern technology. Wales was able to keep up. It printed the Bible. It was the first non-state language to have its own Bible in its own printed form. And that carries through right up to today. Welsh is on the forefront of technology. Duolingo. It had this far before many other minority languages. I'll put links below to things like that Duolingo, you can learn that on, and S4C, the Welsh television station. There's all kinds of apps, there's websites that learn Welsh. You can connect with people around the world who learn Welsh through the internet in ways that a lot of other languages are still trying to catch up on. Welsh is ahead of the pack in terms of technology and diffusion of that through its culture, in terms of understanding how useful it can be to give to people who have interest in the culture. And because it's there, this is an additional resource that enables you to get it quicker, rather than searching for it in the back of a bookshop or going to a Celtic or a fringe festival. It's accessible to you now. And that's a revolution that the Welsh language has been keen and active in playing a part of. Other minority languages have imitated Welsh in how it has innovated software to be able to write faster in Welsh, to diffuse learning capabilities. 9. Indo-European language. I touched on this before, but let's go a bit deeper into this. Welsh is so close to the Latin branch that it absorbed, and frankly it was easier to absorb the Latin language into it, and so much of it has been shaped by it. So it's going to be much more familiar for an English speaker than, say, learning Hungarian or things further east. The Indo-European family, from which it's all connected. The Latin branch and the Celtic branch were much more closer together than the Celtic branch and the Germanic branch, or the Celtic branch and the Slavic branch. The Gaulish language, which was its predecessor on the continent, was so easily absorbed by Latin that it went out of usage. There are other factors, but you get the idea. Welsh shares constructs, but it's an Indo-European language just like English, like German, like Russian. So things that are common between them all are going to click with you. You're going to know them without having to think about it. You're going to get how the structure works a lot faster. If you go and learn Hebrew or Finnish, you have to start from the base of the tree. But with English, you're just jumping to another branch. You don't have to climb the tree already. You've already done that because you're speaking English or French. All these languages are related. You're not starting from the bottom. You have knowledge. You have ability to discern shapes in Welsh without having to learn them from the ground up. That means it's a lot easier than, say, Chinese. And so the idea that Welsh is difficult for an English speaker, it's rubbish. It's nonsense. It's a stereotype, frankly, used to demean the Welsh and say that, oh, your language is too complicated. No. That's laziness. Welsh is a very easy language for an English speaker to learn. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and can see that Welsh is a lot easier to learn than many other languages, with additional complications that Welsh just doesn't have. So, if you're interested in learning the language, I'll put some links down below there for you. And diolch yn fawr am wylio. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.